All right. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is this time, not only did I make bulletins for every single day of the 2 weeks in my life video, bulletins. I think I meant bullet points. But I also have them in chronological order. Takes a bow. I know. I deserve all your praise and adoration. The bad news, however, is that means I made bulletins for every single day since my last life update. AKA, I can remember every single thing that happened. AKA, I can write about every single thing that happened. So, if you thought my other update emails were long and nearly unbearable, this one will be far, far worse. Thus, if you have a distaste for long texts, practically everyone, fear for your life, for it may end before you finish reading one as long as this. Also, it's time to start skim reading. However, if you are a weirdo who actually enjoys reading, or, one whose curiosity gives substance to your will to read, then buckle up. This is going to be a long ride. You open your eyes to behold shelves upon shelves of books stretching endlessly into the distance. Made of polished wood, they extend to the ceiling, 8 or so feet high, on either side of you. Each one is filled with books of all shapes and sizes. Your mind feels groggy, as if you'd just awoken from a deep sleep. Where am I? You mumble aloud. Your voice echoes, an invader penetrating deeper into the realm of silence. How did I get here? You wonder, as your mind begins to clear. You blink and steady yourself on the bookshelf beside you. Then realize you feel nothing. You recoil as if the wood has scorched your hand, and you stare at the bookcase. Slowly, as if in a dream, you witness your hand reaching forward once more. It stops. You watch it pressing against the books, but yet you still feel nothing. You pull your hand back once more and gaze, wide-eyed, at your palms. What's happening to me? Your heart begins to beat rhythmically. Each pulse seems as loud as a drumbeat. You step back. Your foot finds only air. Feeling as if you're falling, you suddenly stop and look around. You're back against a bookcase. You cling to what you cannot feel. Your breath, short and quick, disturbs the dormant dust. You squeeze your eyes shut and slip behind the sea of emptiness. You see nothing, feel nothing, taste nothing. The only remains of reality is the sound of your own heart thundering in your ears and the ever-present smell of decaying books. Your eyes snap open once more, and like a hand reaching below the surface, a vision pulls you from the nothingness. You gasp involuntarily, as if doused with cold water. What is happening? The thought is almost an internal scream, and it resounds with abnormal clarity. Why can't I feel anything? The question sounds so clearly. It seems whispered in your ear. Where? How? A sound like a gunshot rips through your thoughts, and your head whips to the right. The echoes ripple like waves from a pond. Not 20 feet away, an elderly man slowly looks up from a large book that has fallen off the shelf and now lays on the floor. You freeze. Your quivering head raises, and deep, wrinkle-crossed eyes of his gaze into yours. His voice, like the creak of an ancient door, trails off and echoes. I think you should read this one. His eyes release yours, and he looks down at the book once more. First, your lungs refuse to expand, and your eyes remain glued to the man for a moment. Run! The instinct suddenly erupts within you, filling your mind. Your reflexes snap into action, and you turn to sprint away. Your foot seems to find only air, and you find yourself sprawled on the hardwood floor, feeling as if you're falling. You scramble to your hands and knees and look over your shoulder. The man is gone. You look back, and he stands not 2 feet in front of you, a frail hand outstretched. Don't. Terror fills your being, and you hear nothing else. With reckless abandon, you scramble back to your feet. You take 3 steps, and suddenly the old man appears in front of you, his expressionless, almost skeletal face less than a foot from yours. Please, his voice creaks. You jerk yourself the other way and try to run, but your feet can't hit the ground. Numbly you fall, and the man is before you again. You back up, your shoulders hit the bookcases. Cornered, you feel the adrenaline soaking your veins, and your wild panic gaze fixated on the old man before you. He says nothing. Your chest rises and falls rapidly. You can feel the tension strung through your muscles, like someone next to you is whispering in your ear. Run! It fills your consciousness. But you can't move. You won't. Agonizing moments pass in epochs. Each second fills with the fear that it might be your last. Stillness. Your eyes never leave the ancient man. His deathly gray, paper-thin skin barely hides his skeletal form. A blue plaid shirt is draped across his bent back, and long black trousers end where leather shoes began. His head, bald save for a few white hairs, is covered in a black spot, where his skin seems almost eaten by mold. Eyes deeply set and dirty brown stare into yours. You feel a shiver of disgust and fear ripple through your body. What is he? A few more moments pass. Do you... His head trembles as he speaks. Do you have any His eyes peer into yours. Questions. The words echo softly in the distance as he draws out the S, like a wind whispering through the trees. You swallow hard. What are you? Where am I? What do you want? Slowly the man turns and begins to hobble down the hall of books. You wanted to come here. He pulls himself along the bookshelf. And I am here to help you find... You blink, and suddenly he's standing beside the book that fell on the floor. What you are looking for. His glance at the large black hardcover book before your eyes. Oh, you glance at the large hardcover book before your eyes and snap back to the man. Where is here? You ask, the ever-present echo accompanying your tentative voice. The old man looks past you down the endless hall of books. Erudition's domain. The words spark something within you. A feminine voice resounds within your memory. Please, she shouted on the verge of tears. It's not worth it. If you go into erudition's domain... Abruptly, the memory stops. Another voice, this time male and harsh, resounds. No. If you go there, you'll never feel anything again. Erudition's domain... Again, the memory cuts off. A final voice, weary and reluctant, announces itself with crystal clarity. If you're right, there's only one place you can find it. Erudition's domain. The memory ceased, and you raise your hands and clutch your head. You feel nothing. What did I do? The man's creaking voice sounds once more, grating in your ears. You should read this one first. He looks down at the book once more. You try to still your racing heart. How did I get here? How do I go back? The man looks up to you once more, then abruptly vanishes. You whip around and look the other end of the hall. Nothing. Eyes darting. You wait a few moments. Is he gone? Nothing stirs. What's happening? You look at your hands. What did he mean, you'll never feel again? Erudition's domain? Why do I know that name? You try and focus. Try and remember. You close your eyes and emptiness crashes back over you. You resist the urge to pull from the nothingness and try to remember something. Anything. There's just nothing there. Ah! You clutch your head. Why can't I remember? Why can't I feel anything? Your eyes open and fall on the book. No! Your mind screams. I'm not going to do what he wants. I need to get out of here. I need to escape. You look down the endless hall. It can't go on forever, can it? You stay yourself against the bookcase, according to your sense of touch that shouldn't be there. Your eyes find the book once more. What did he mean, I wanted to come here? You take a step toward the book and steady yourself. Cautiously, you navigate your way down the hall until you reach the thick hardback. You lower yourself to the floor and stare at the timeless cover. 1,000 what-ifs swirl within your mind. Clumsily, you grasp the book and open it. Black words greet your gaze, and you begin to read. In the beginning, God. Well, what do you think? It started as the intro for The Last Life Date, but I kind of got into it and turned into a short story. That was the short story I was talking about in My Last Life Date, by the way. It's an allegory, in case you couldn't tell, and it's my first time writing in the second person. Not the easiest task, I might add. Now, I would ask you to guess at what it means, but at this point, I know that only like one of you guys would actually do it, so I'm just going to tell you. Erudition's domain, the place you're in, represents the domain of reason, of learning. The object you're looking for is truth, yet you don't know what it is or what it looks like. Moreover, to make things more difficult, within erudition's domain, certain processes we often use are of no value. I'm talking about emotion, represented by touch in the allegory. The loss of emotion's usefulness is troubling and disorienting to most, and as is the loss of touch within the allegory. The old man, contrary to what one may suppose, is not evil, but presuming the Bible is truth, as we all do, he's in fact the good guy that leads you to truth. Yet he is so repulsive to illustrate a point. Truth ought not be judged by the one who presents it, or how it first appears. I believe far too often we reject valid truth because it's said without eloquence, or perhaps by someone who we find repulsive for whatever reason. Very often, especially within Christian communities, we judge a statement true or false based on how or who said it, rather than objectively evaluating what was said itself. We ought not say the book is ugly, because an ugly man showed it to us. So yeah, that's what it means. Anyway, I hope you don't forget the lesson within the next 10 seconds, because I think it's one that's like one of the most important you can learn in this life. Anyway, without further ado, let me get on to what's been happening. Gestures across a tumultuous gray sky. It all began long ago, on a dark and normal night. Me and Ben ventured deep into the basement of horror, aka the basement containing all of our stuff before we moved to New Zealand. And it's like a hoarder's house down there. We had dug through mattresses, apparently to uncover thunder cracks, Nerf guns. Bum bum bum. All right, I'm done with that. It's fun to a degree, but it's just kind of annoying. Anyway, the point is we got some Nerf guns out of our basement. We have these two what I call pew pew guns, and they aren't actually Nerf guns. In fact, they're really just sad paintball guns I bought when I was like 9. So yeah, that was great because when me and Ben were really young, Ben would have these friends over and I would just terrorize them. Seriously, though I had 2 paintball guns, it wasn't like really high on my priority to use them as paintball guns, so I wouldn't really give other people the guns and I just shoot them. Anyway, it was great. I know this is a tangent, but me and those same friends also used to have these plastic ninja swords where literally my day would be spent with me chasing and hitting Ben with his friends with these plastic swords and them running in tear. Those were the good old days. Anyway, back on topic. We pulled said pew-pew guns from the basement and I grabbed my old rival. For those of you that don't know, the Nerf rival guns are like the gods of Nerf. Reach down from their heavenly places and infuse power into the plastic. Like, these guns are pretty darn powerful, hence why I grabbed it. And it's super fun to shoot other people with, not as much fun to get shot with. And we got our guns, and Mom drove us to CSU, aka Colorado State University, where a Nerf war, which Ben's friend invited him to, was scheduled. So we show up, and it turns out there's like 30 people. Some of them have like wooden and cardboard shields. Like, this is not some chill Nerf war. So, feeling slightly unprepared for the occasion, and wishing I had my Boss Awesome shield I made back in my Nerf war days, I was considering not going on this tangent, but, this email's already going to be unbearably long anyway, because that's how it is, so who cares if it's long? So you see, back when I was like 14, I did some dumpster diving. That's right, dumpster diving. What can I say, Ben? It's contagious. And I found this old wooden framework for like a towel rack. I don't know. And I also found some fine chicken wire. So what I did is I flattened the chicken wire over the wooden frame, made the shield that was almost like a flattened V. It wasn't like totally flat. And at the point in the V, I bought some PVC pipe and ran it down the shield. So for those of you who don't know, you can get just the right size PVC pipe, and it acts as an awesome blow dart gun for Nerf. Also, how I made my deadly sniper back in the day, but that's a story for later. We're already sidetracked as it is. Hence, I now had this shield that was like the length of my arm and was see-through, but it could stop Nerf bullets because of chicken wire. And when you raise your arm Iron Man style, it acted as a blowgun. No kidding, I actually destroyed with that shield. However, because it was so awesome, the friend I fought in the Nerf wars with ended up buying it for me. I think he originally offered me like $15, but I was selfless, and I said I couldn't take more than 5. So yeah, again, I deserve all your praise and adoration. So I no longer have said shield, but technically, not only was it my first and only creation of mine that I ever sold, but the PVC blowgun only cost me like $1.50. So, and because everything else was free, I made like a 300% profit. That's the story of my Boss Awesome shield. Now let me get back to the other story. So here I am on this campus building, which is like 4 levels and is really nice. And I was wondering how they got permission to let 30 kids run around shooting Nerf guns. More about that later. And then they tell me that the rivals aren't allowed because no one else brought eyewear. So my God-infused gun had been banned, and now I'm left with this pew-pew gun. Now you may be thinking, Alex, what are you whining about? Those old paintball guns must be like super powerful. Well, yes, it's true they are more powerful than other guns, but it was only slightly. Remember I said they were sad paintball guns. And they had to be manually reloaded by sticking a bullet down the barrel. Now, if it was like 2 or 3 people, this would not be such a bad thing. But when you have like 30 people, taking like 2 to 3 seconds to reload makes a huge difference. So yeah, I'm definitely at a disadvantage here. And we split up teams and we began to war. I like how I said that. Thus, due to the limitations of my gun, this becomes my strategy. Load pew pew gun. Locate horde of enemy. Sprint as fast as I can past enemy and fire blindly into their midst. Pray to the aforementioned Nerf gods the enemies wouldn't hit me as I rounded the corner. Honestly, it wasn't a trash strategy, because I had like a 75% success rate. Wait, I take that back. As this particular war was played, there was no one that died, per se. It's just that they got shot and they became neutral. And they had to like count for 10 seconds, whichever team touched them first, they then joined. So yeah, I may have hit people, but they just had to sit down for 10 seconds, and the team could just... Okay, yeah, it was a horrible strategy. Also, as a result, I ended up switching teams a lot. Still, while I was very far from winning, it was still fun. Also, we did one more game mode, which was zombies, which for those of you that aren't familiar, it's like where, there starts with like 4 zombies and then they tag you, you become a zombie too. And the goal is to stay alive as long as possible, unless of course you're a zombie. Also, if a zombie got shot, they had to freeze for 10 seconds. That's how the humans had even a chance. And the zombies had to drop their guns. That's the other thing. Anyway, the first round I was a human, and I think I was like the second to last person alive. Seeing how those runs pay off. The next 2 rounds, I was a zombie, and I just utterly failed. When people have guns that can shoot like 6 bullets in a row, it's like impossible to dodge. Also, there's this one guy, he was the leader, and he wisely used the awesome power of the PVC blowgun. So while he couldn't shoot rapidly, the thing about blowguns is they're uncannily accurate. So every time I would chase him, he would just wait until I was like 3 feet away and then he would shoot me. Like, there's nothing you can do in that scenario because by the time 10 seconds has passed, he's reloaded and, ready to do the whole thing again. Seriously, so frustrating. I tried to give it him for like 5 minutes, hoping he would finally miss, but he didn't. Anyway, the next time I was human and I got up pretty quickly. I think I turned a corner and a zombie was like right there. Unfortunate series of events. Anyway, as we were in our last game though, I didn't see it, but apparently some angry janitor guy came in and told us we had to get out. And apparently, that's what the permission consisted of. Well, we haven't been told not to yet. Face palms. That's not permission! Shakes his head. Here I was trusting these leaders would be responsible. And that, it's possible they had actual legit permission, but I wasn't there to actually see it. And the aforementioned permission definitely seems to be the kind they got from, what I heard, aka they haven't told us no. Anyway, so we cleaned up like a bazillion Nerf bullets and left. Thankfully, we were basically at the end of the time anyway, so it wasn't really cut short. And Mom took me and Ben home. In the end, it was really fun, and I remember how much I love Nerf wars. Okay, so I've literally only gotten through like one day so far. Wow. I mean, obviously, not all the days are as interesting as this first one, but I think I need to include some kind of intermission if you guys are going to stay awake. All right, fear not, my tale shall continue. In the meantime, though, grab a snack, down a cup of coffee, do what you need to do to stay alive, and I'll be back shortly. Elevator music plays in the background. See, I can take a sip of tea while that plays. Anyway, elevator music stops abruptly, and I come back to the scene with a cold cup of ice water. We didn't have any juice in the fridge, so shrugs. You work with what you got. Anyway, what happened next? I spent an entire 2 days, like 8 hours all told, working on this self-reloading crossbow. One of my friends made this non-reloading crossbow, which was actually really good, and it propelled a vital concoction of 2 parts propelled by a vital concoction of 2 parts desire, which was actually really good. And propelled by a vital concoction of 2 parts desire, I can prove I can do better, and a 1-part desire to begin to create. I then spent hours of tedious labor, seemingly insurmountable complications, and numerous happy coincidences, which I put in air quotes because seriously, so many things just fell in place for the creation to actually work, which I'm dubious as to the mere coincidental nature of the creation, but then again, I'm not sure how and if God intervenes on our behalf of such small, mostly selfish activities. But it seemed like he did. Thus the coincidences. Anyway, I created this! Angelic music ensues and heavenly light illuminates my glorious creation. It's a Lego crossbow. That was actually really cool. I miss those days. Honestly, this is probably like the most complex and mechanically advanced thing I've ever built out of Lego. Unless you're an avid builder, you don't have a clue how hard it is to make a mechanism that causes a crossbow to load ammunition from a magazine and fire sound ammunition with one back and forth motion. Whispers. It's really hard. Anyway, the crossbow is pretty powerful, and I'm pretty proud of it. It was a good use of my time. That's another story. Let's see. Hence, while this is an engineering success, I think it may have been a bit of a spiritual fail, especially considering my motivations. But anyway, moving on. On Tuesday, I had a packed day. I met a friend from youth group, an INTP by my estimation. We ate burritos at his house and talked for 3 hours. I can't remember exactly what we talked about, but it had a lot to do with spiritual gifts, and he was charismatic. And though he said it quite nicely, his explanation for why I hadn't experienced any of the gifts or done any of the crazy miracles yet was I didn't want to do it for the right reasons. AKA, I wanted to help myself rather than other people, which is true. I wouldn't say my intentions are selfless per se. If gifts are real, then I want to experience them. So I would, know this whole other aspect of God. I always thought that, wanting to know the truth was good enough motivation, but maybe it needs to be more selfless than that. I don't know. Anyway, he shared a lot of really cool stories about his radical experiences, which were cool to hear. I think it's hard to write those off as coincidental or placebo. At this point, I'm fairly convinced the dichotomy is either a whole bunch of people I trust are lying, or spiritual gifts are a thing of the present. Obviously, I'm inclined toward the latter, but I need to, dive into the subject before I can really make an accurate judgment. Anyway, I had a good talk with him, and I got home for 30 minutes, stuffed my face with food, and went to see another INTP. Surprising how many INTPs I know, considering how rare they are. Anyway, they're so smart, and they're kind of just natural friends. So anyway, this guy's name is Josiah. He's 16. He's the guy I've been talking about with the evolutionary creationism thing. Super smart. He's only 16. He definitely knows more than me. To a degree, that's aggravating, but I'm trying to get over it. Also, yes, I'm still working on that evolutionary creationism paper just in case, things slow down. I'm waiting for this ID lady to respond to me. She took 11 days, but she finally got back to me yesterday. And honestly, I did some research and asked some of the hardest questions one could ask, but still, in the words of Inigo Montoya, I hate waiting. So yeah, don't worry. The paper hasn't died. It's just been postponed. Anyway, he can't drive, so I picked him up, and we drove to my makerspace in Greeley. Thankfully, though, he was kind of socially awkward. I mean, Not like I'm not. We had lots to talk about because there was a lot of, debatable topics in the world. And yeah, at least it wasn't like awkward silence the whole time. But I will say it was kind of strange knowing someone online before you meet them in person. Just weird. I wonder what it's going to be like, when he finally meets some of the people he knows online. Looks at said people. You guys need to agree to make, sure that it just won't be awkward. Okay. Anyway, we went to said makerspace, and it turns out not all INTPs love things INTJs do, because he was pretty bored and didn't know how to work the CAD software, so he just was confused. Bored and confused are a bad combo. So yeah, we got coffee at Starbucks, and instead, and then eventually drove to the Summit, a place with arcades and bowling stuff. And because his parents are communists, he said something like that, he had to be back at like 6 p.m., so that only gave us like an hour to play laser tag. So we bought our passes and just played arcade games. And our passes let us play for free, but we didn't get any tickets while we waited. And even though laser tag games were supposed to happen every 15 minutes, we only played up like a single game. Seriously, the employees must have just been really lazy because we didn't get to play like any laser tag. It was just the worst. I mean, arcade games are only interesting for so long, By the end of it, we just had played every one of them we were allowed to play, and we were just basically sitting there being really bored. So yeah, I took him home. The whole excursion was kind of a flop, but the tasks, the talks in the car were still good. And I wouldn't say a total fail. Anyway, I got home at like 6:30, and I was like, hey, I already paid for these passes, and they're good till midnight, so I might as well use them. Thus, I gave Josiah's pass to Ben and called up Ben's friend Ethan, and we played like laser tag and arcade games till about midnight. It was pretty fun. It got kind of boring after like 4 hours, but we got our money's worth. But the really weird and vexing thing was that thing that happened was at the end, Ben was the one winning the laser tag games. I mean, as I previously stated, I am the champion of laser tag, practically undefeated. But somehow, and I don't know how, Ben began beating me, and I was getting second. Granted, it was fairly close. For instance, that last game he beat me, he only won by like 200 points, the equivalent of shooting one person in the chest. Seriously, that's all it would have taken. If I had shot 2 more people, I would have won. Rubs his hand over his face. But it was an unpleasant surprise. Anyway, I drove me and Ben home, and we just crashed. The next day I had work, and I'll be honest, it was pretty eventful. The good thing that happened was I got to talk to this Catholic lady as I was checking her groceries, and she was super nice, and I asked her some deep questions, which is always fun. However, at this point in my break, my break had been like an hour late, so I really need to go to the bathroom. So in my hurry to leave, I forgot to charge her for her $300 of groceries. Thankfully, she came back and paid for it. I had no clue I'd forgot to charge her, but that was totally my bad. Then, still hungry, I ended up charging the wrong order for the wrong guy. Apparently, the guy who checked out before this lady left his card in the reader, and so I went to charge her order. I charged him instead. And then my gangster coworker Nathan comes up and is like, dude, that's a high-quality card. You have to have like $10,000 in assets just to get your hands on that kind of card. And I'm like, great, I just messed up. And the person I messed up on is really important. So yeah, I refunded the order and just went to my boss and explained everything that happened and gave him the credit card. And he was pretty cool about it, so that was cool. Then I checked for a while, and I finally got my break like an hour and 40 minutes late. I was so hungry at that point. And that was not a fun day at work. After that, I raced the youth group and talked to the ID lady I've been talking about. She was able to answer my questions, and all my questions at the moment. But since I've gotten smarter, we'll see how she handles round 2. So yeah, that was Wednesday. Thursday was uneventful, except a customer said he liked my deep questions, so that was encouraging. Remember, I'm being strategic with my questions, so I don't get in trouble. The next day, the only thing that was really interesting is I brought the Myers kids over to our house, and we did a Nerf war, and that was actually pretty fun. Seth, the youngest one, was hard at times. He gets bored easily overall, but overall it was a good time. After that, I did my research on ID, and my coworker Jamie broke down crying at work because she saw a dog died. Oh no, because she saw a dog, and it reminded her of her puppy that was killed by a bigger dog, but still. The next day at work, they had a ton of free food, and I ate way too many ice cream sandwiches. I talked with this gay guy, Joseph, for a while, actually. He's been trying to, be friends with me ever since I got there. And I was kind of hesitant because not only is he pretty weird, but I mean, he's gay. And there's that whole level of new consideration you have to factor into that. But, isn't this kind of our job as Christians? Like, aren't we supposed to reach out to unbelievers who we don't 100% like? I don't know, it's a hard call. But I think I'll hang out with him. He said he doesn't want to, date people from work. Shakes his head. People. Man. Gay people, man. He just wants to be friends. The only thing I do like a lot, though, is his blunt honesty. Granted, that's what makes him socially awkward, but it's kind of refreshing. I was able to ask him what he thought about topics like God, and he was pretty unfazed by the question. Still, I was pretty closed off through our conversation, so I don't think... Oh, he was pretty closed off through our conversation, so I don't think I've done any good yet. I haven't, shared the gospel with him or anything. Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. After that work, I went over to the Myers house and had a good conversation with Caleb, another INTP, so that was good. The day after that, I was off and met with Hal again at Panera. He's a dispensationalist, remember. This time, I took notes on all his points so I could examine them later. If any of you guys want those, I can just give them to you. But I still haven't looked at them. I've just had so many other things I'm doing. Anyway, it was a good conversation. He's definitely not a thinker, but he's still good to talk to. After that, I spent like 4 hours at Makerspace. That was pretty cool. It was just me and Ben, the guy who kind of runs it, and he showed me how to make molds for plastic. It's really cool, actually. I'm super excited to learn. I also got a prototype case started and some test stuff done. After that, I went to Ascent Project. Do you guys remember the church I went to back in the Tuesday nights? Yeah, pretty cool, but I had to choose between Life Group and Ascent Project because they happened at the same time, so I chose Life Group. But now that Life Group's been out for the summer, I'm free to use that time, so I was able to make the most of it. If none of that brings it to mind, then the place with free donuts. Maybe that helps. I know it certainly helps me remember it. Anyway, I went there, and the people seemed pretty surfacey. The only person I knew at that point was Caleb Myers, but he, runs sound, so I sat with myself. Anyway, the cool thing that happened during the worship, though, was as I was standing there and singing to the song and thinking, God, I know these guys are just asking you to feel your presence, but I just don't really care. I think feelings are irrelevant, but if you really want to do something for me, if I could make a friend after the service, someone who I actually like, that would be great. And I was kind of just like, well, might as well give it a shot, prayer. Nothing earnest. So the service ends, and I go over to get another donut, particularly because, it's a free donut. And partially because I have no one to talk to, and because I'm less awkward or I'm trying to look less awkward than I feel, as I'm there just, weighing it out, a guy walks over and starts doing the same thing. And I think he says something like, I want to eat one, but I don't know if I should. And we start talking. And like that, I didn't even start the conversation. So then, as we got talking, it turns out this guy, Christian, is really cool. He's super energetic, an authentic guy, not like the other, surfacey people, and pretty knowledgeable on a few topics. So we just kind of hit it off. I think he's an ENFJ. Definitely a feeler, but a smart feeler. So yeah, I just really enjoyed talking to him for the next 30 minutes or so, and we had some good exchange emails. We exchanged emails and numbers, and yeah, I was just like, he's cool. So then a little while later, as I get in my car, I start driving, it totally hits me, and I'm like, holy cow, God just totally answered my prayer. And I won't lie, I was genuinely surprised. Like, I know you believe something, but, you can believe it and not really expect it to happen. So that's kind of where I was at. I mean, I had prayed like super hard to encounter God in the past 3 months and seen nothing, so I was experimentally dubious that God actually answered prayer. But then, as I, considered the situation, I realized just how improbable that situation was. Like, A, I didn't even start the conversation, so there couldn't have been any help on my part. B, Christian is the only person I've met there, besides Caleb, that I actually enjoyed talking to and could see myself being friends with. I met a few other people, but they were, just about having fun. And the way I see it, the odds are, like, one of the few people that could fulfill my prayer does, though, is pretty slim. And granted, it's not like, I have some undeniable move of God. It possibly could have been a coincidence. I totally, took it as some divine... I totally took it as some divine intervention, so that was really cool. The whole experience kind of just boosted my belief in prayer actually, working. So that was cool. I'm going to put in a second intermission, so hang in there with me, guys. Stretches, cracks his knuckles. Okay, I'm back. The last thing that happened that night was I talked with a friend from New Zealand. The next day was pretty normal. One of the customers was like, I have nothing. I never have to worry about having to cheer up the cashier when you're in line. You're always happy. And that was cool. So I was beginning to wonder if my efforts for being positive was going on. Because I was beginning to wonder if my efforts for being positive were being unnoticed. Still, God knows, right? So either way, it kind of works out. I, again, rushed to youth group after work, and I got to talk with Matt, that super smart philosophy guy, for a bit. But someone else had some questions that she wanted to ask, so our talk was kind of cut short. Still, that was good, and I'm planning on having an extensive debate with him. I woke up like super late the next day, like 10 a.m., so I guess it's not that late, but I usually get up at like 7 or maybe 8. I took Ben and Benj out to the makerspace, and it was great, because when we got there, Ben, the guy who runs it, helped us out. So in the end, we had like 3 Bens. Anyway, I modified my phone case and got to printing while the 2 Bens played with the 3D printing pens. Ben decided he wanted to see if he could make a mold of his finger, so he stuck it in molten plastic. What takes place in the mind of Ben, I don't know. And after suffering through the burning, came out with a perfect mold of his finger. So Ben's trying to make it be the case he has a rubber finger, and we'll see if that works. Anyway, both Bens, me, had a great time, so that was a definite success. Hopefully we'll be able to do that again soon. Anyway, I got back and had dinner with an old friend we met in New Zealand. For all you Cape May people, he's got a deep voice and the best Werner impressions you've ever known. If that doesn't do it for you, then I don't know what will. But yeah, him and his fiance came over and ate dinner. Then we went with him and played soccer at the park across the street. Me and Ben were on a team against the random guy and you-know-who, but we lost because Dad made the worst goalie move in history ever. Seriously, I had some awesome shots, and he saved those, but this ball was coming so low, and it bounced weird, so he missed it. Anyway, it was frustrating. Anyway, good to see him again, and great talking with him. He told us a story about how he pranked a guy into believing he murdered someone, so that was a hardcore prank. It's the kind that, like, isn't even funny in hindsight, but you're more like, well, you went far. I would share that story with you, but I don't think we need any more content in this email. If you really want to hear it, and, I'll probably tell you, then just ask. Anyway, should see him again in the future, and it was good. The next thing that happened, and was super lame, is my work changed my schedule on me like 2 days before the actual day. You see, Youth Group was hosting this camping trip on Sunday and Monday, so I decided to come on the Wednesday before. Now, at that point, I didn't have work on Sunday. In fact, Sunday and Mondays were days that I had particularly asked for off. So there's no reason I should have had work on those days anyway. But then I put up my schedule like 2 days, they put up my schedule like 2 days before, and it says I have to work Sunday. So I go to my scheduling boss, and I'm like, I wasn't working this day yesterday, and I am today. How do I fix this? And he's like, get someone to take your shift. That's about all you can do. And I'm like, well, that's not very fair. I planned this before I was supposed to work, and it's one of the 2 days I requested off every week. Why do I have to fix this? But he kind of just shrugged and was like, sorry, dude, that's part of the job. And so that was it. So I go and talk to my other boss lady, and she's like, yep, you're going to have someone take it for you. What time's your shift? 4 p.m. to 11 p.m.? Yeah, no one's going to want to take that. You might have to pay someone. At this point, I'm like, come on. Internally, not externally, though, because I, don't want my frustration to leak through. I mean, first you tell me I'm going to have to spend time and effort to fix something you broke. And now you're telling me I have to pay to fix something you broke. Throws his hands in the air. Apparently, my only other option was to just not show up, which apparently if you don't show up 3 times, then you're fired. Not sure if that count ever resets or something. So I'm just going to take a strike. Like, seriously, there's no way I'm paying not to work. Also, my track record is perfect so far, so I think I can hack a blemish. I think I'm going to get, talking when I get back. Oh, I think I'm going to get a talking to when I get back, but I haven't been at work, so at this point, I don't know what punishment awaits me. Really looking forward to that! Other than that, though, the work that day was good. There were some new guys I was talking to. One guy who wrestled and seemed cool. I can't remember his name. And this girl named Taylor, who's an ENFP. We talked a lot. She was super open to talking about God. From what I've heard so far, she believes in a sort of absent watchmaker God. That God that, started all but kind of just lets it run. I don't know. I only got to talk to her a little bit between customers, but it was good. The bad part is one of my coworkers was teasing me at break by having a crush on her. Understandable why he would think that. She was really pretty. And I tried to explain to him, I love talking to everyone about deep stuff, but he seemed dubious. So hopefully that doesn't become a problem. Anyway, got home. Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier. My job is, my mom is doing a job making jewelry. So she's like a repetitive laborer. So if that doesn't meet her ISFP dream requirements, I don't know what does. So she's not super satisfied, but she's still working, so it can't be that bad. Anyway, we had pizza, and it was sort of like a, you made it through the week thing for her. And then me and Grace went out rollerblading, which was fun. And I talked also with another different friend from New Zealand that night. Oh, and here's where things started really happening. You stare flabbergasted at me. You're telling me that 7,000 words isn't enough? Well, no, unfortunately not quite. You throw up your hands. Anyway, the whole family went to church, Southgate, the church the Myers go to, not Antioch, the church we've been going to. Then after the sermon about witnessing to people, which was actually really good, there were, at lunch, all the kids going on the aforementioned camping trip. I talked to this socially awkward kid named Daniel, because he didn't have any friends, so I tried to help him out. Man, I talked to a lot of socially awkward people. You, cross your arms. Well, birds of a feather flock together. Crowd of people. Oh! Me blink twice. Man, you know you're wearing your heart out when you start roasting yourself. Guys, I'm on 4.5 hours of writing this email. I've stopped to eat breakfast and lunch, and that's about it. Stuffs more mac and cheese in his mouth. I need to finish this thing. So the point is, I talked to Daniel and kind of talked him through the whole, and kind of about the whole camp. I tried to include him and help him out. Well, a lot of times I totally forgot about him. I wasn't that good at my self-assigned task of helping him. Anyway, we chose buddies and got in cars. I chose Benj and started the drive. I started us off with some deep questions, of course, and asked everyone for a brief history of their life story and faith journey. That was cool. When we were about halfway there, that was over. Then the conversation turned to debates, which inevitably proceeds to, and it didn't take long for it to turn to free will. You see, earlier I was talking to the apologist lady, and Ben and some other Myers heard me say I didn't believe in free will, so then I explained to them why, and hence Ben used the opportunity to challenge me on that. Anyway, Joe, the guy driving us, he's an INFP, and about 22, I think, was the main person in the debate. I know, an INFP debating? I thought it was weird, but he was normally good for an INFP, and had some good points. But basically the car ride was more like a mob debate. In case you've never been in one, here's basically the characteristics of a mob debate. A single person holds a contrary position to other members. There are at least 3 members in the debate. The single opponent is expected to carry the burden of proof. The opponents take turns attacking the single person as a point of view. So yeah, me being in quite a few mob debates, they're not very educational, and it's definitely more of an intellectual battle for superiority. I tried to avoid them more recently, but when you're stuck in a car, there's not much you can do on that end. Anyway, I don't think I won per se, but I certainly held my own. They were unwilling to accept my definition of free will, yet couldn't propose anything better. They kept saying things like, the ability to choose. But that uses free will in the definition as choice, as decision is made with free will. Anyway, the debate was cut short because we got where we were going. We got to the campsite and set up tents, and then, not sure if we played basketball first or second, but either way we played some basketball, which Joe, who's a massive guy, super buff, played competitively, so that wasn't fair. The only thing that I did pass, the only thing I did pass my other teammates is, I did pass my other teammates so they could shoot, and I sat on the net so I could throw balls back to them, so it actually worked pretty well, even if it wasn't fair. Daniel played too, but he was had zero coordination, so that made it hard. The other thing we did was we played this stupid get to know each other games, which was just bad. I hate those things. I mean, do they really expect us to know all the 40 kids' names? I mean, we're up here for a day and a half. Anyway, that was lame, and we did some... Oh, and then we did something worse. I know, it's hard to go from the name-learning games. The next thing we did was we divided into teams, and we were told to tie a knot in a tiny piece of string without letting it go of it. Yeah, it turns out they tried to make us do something that wasn't even possible. Clutch his hair. It's not frustrating... Oh, if that's not frustrating, I don't know what it is. But apparently it was okay because completing the task isn't the point. It was about getting to know each other. Shakes his head. No, it's not okay. Frowns. I'm just disappointed. After that, we ate and went on a walk with Joe, which was better because it wasn't a mob debate. But when I proposed that we couldn't be certain of anything, or worse, that evolutionary creations might be true, I'm pretty sure I was categorized as a heathen. Yeah, he was not happy about it. So yeah, then Caleb joined in. I tried to show the both of them why certain was impossible to have. It didn't really work, but I kind of just blame myself for that. Looking back, my arguments were pretty weak. My mind was kind of jumbled. Anyway, we did a tiny bit of Bible study, but the lame kind, where they, give you a Bible verse and say, what does this mean to you? And then it got dark. We had dinner. Oh, and before that, I played Spike with Benj, and we absolutely destroyed everyone else. We only lost once on our first game, if I do recall. And that was fun, but everything else was pretty lame. So yeah, I was fairly down at this point, to be honest. But as I was sitting there, one of the Myers girls, Karina, started a conversation with me. And eventually we got talking about emotion, and that was another topic that a bunch of girls and one other guy hopped in on. However, it was a nicer debate because, I'd written a paper on emotion, and hence I knew my position well. It was really good, though. And we all talked late into the night, and everyone, including me obviously, really enjoyed it. So yeah, that lifted my spirits, and I went to bed. Before I went to sleep, Joe, I was in his tent, and us did a lame Bible study, the same kind as we did earlier. And then we went to bed before doing a workout routine, which involved 50 sit-ups. And I'll be honest, that was hard for me. I need to do things other than running. Anyway, we did a bit of talking, but at his request, avoided the conversation about certainty and free will. The talk was better, and he made some points that were good. And so I agree with him, I agree with him. And hence I was moved from heathen status to misguided Christian status in his mind, which was good. Anyway, I went to bed, hardly got any sleep, and woke up for breakfast, which was great. I then had some debates with the Myers dad, who came, and those were really good. We talked about certainty, and I think he agreed with me that theoretically it's impossible to have, but, we can get to 99%, which practically speaking is certain. Anyway, we also had a good Calvinism versus Arminianism debate, which was interesting, as he used my argument for God being good, even though he doesn't seem to be, aka we're unable to label God good or evil based on experience. And for him, where the rubber hit the road is if free will is impossible, then love is impossible. He made a good point, but in order to be my position, or proposition, that free will and complete control can coexist, he had to use what I'm calling the reason atom bomb. He claimed that just because we have no proof of it doesn't mean it can't exist, which is true, but the same line of reasoning works on his argument that free will is necessary for love. In essence, it's a line of thought that destroys both sides of argumentation. Hence, at this point, I think the debate is kind of a tie. Unless you can make a case that real love doesn't exist, then the Calvinist wins. But I'm not, sure I want to make that case. Anyway, I hopefully will do more research on that in the future. The point is, I really enjoyed talking with him, and it was definitely a let's learn stuff debate, not a let's see who's smarter debate, in which, one is much better than the other, in my opinion. After that, I went on a hike, and I debated more with Joe. One of the things we touched on is if gifts exist. In the previous debate I'd have with a certain INFJ, looks to you, I argued they don't, but after that conversation, I concede I was wrong. Holds up his hands. I surrender. Yes, a great deal of your gifting is due to what you do, and with your time, but there's some aspect of, talent present, at least in physical reality. Anyway, we talked about stuff, but I'm eager to get done with this email at this point, so I won't tell you about it. The rest of the camping trip was okay. We played some volleyball, which was, satisfactory. Some younger kids were just messing around the whole time, so those of us that actually wanted to play, couldn't. So, yeah, I guess it really shouldn't be rated satisfactory. After that, we played some Capture the Flag, which was annoying because I started off playing smart, waiting for people to venture too close and then catching them and putting them in jail. I'm pretty fast. Maybe not quite Ollie fast, but pretty fast. And then after that, I helped catch like another, team leader. But then they just yelled jailbreak. Scowls. She apparently thought we were not taking enough risks, so the other team deserved to just be free. What kind of logic is that? You're saying because we were smart and patient, we get punished? Throws up his hands. I can't live with these conditions. Walks away. Comes back 5 minutes later, muttering something about, it almost being as bad as a stupid string game. Anyway, moving on. Thus, in the light of such unjust treatment, I decided to sprint into enemy territory for fun. And I think I made it, back the first time, but I think it was the second time there were some people in the jail right where, I was trying to break them free. So I got past like 3 guards, and then I round a pine tree, and Daniel just pops out and tags me. This is how you repay me? Just kidding. It was a really smart move of his part. Well played, Daniel. Well played. So yeah, after that point, I spent most of my time in jail. The few times I was freed, I was either caught before I made it back to my side. There were no free walks back. Or I made it back to my side, and then a minute later, ran back to the enemy territory and got caught again. But this one time, someone just walked around the jails casually, and no one's seen him. So he walks through this open patch to get to us, and instead of sprinting, just walks. So then, of course, one of the guards sees him, but she's pretty slow, so he's able to, have 5 seconds, which if he sprinted, he could have reached us in, but he just stands there. Rubs his hand down his face. Super frustrating. Then, of course, 2 other guards come, and he gets just tagged. Anyway, we play Capture the Flag. Then we did some drama, where we're given, 7 random words and how to use them all in a skit. Yeah, I'd rather not talk about such dark times. And the last thing we did before we left was play this game where everyone had to be touching someone else, and if they let go, they had to restart. The goal of the game was to get everyone over this string about a meter off the ground in between 2 trees. And while me and Joe were on a team, I had this great idea that we could just lift everyone over because no one else on our team was very heavy. They were all girls. So, I don't know, maybe it wasn't as good as idea I thought. But I mean, granted, we succeeded only after lifting everyone on the team 3 times. This is why working up your upper body is important. Granted, when we finally did, it felt like we were a beast because we put in a ton of work. We finally did succeed. We might say we carried the team. I know, I'm resorting to puns. Sorry. Anyway, after that, we drove home and listened to Owl City music and Toby Mac music. 0 deep conversations involved, but that was okay at this point in time. And I said goodbye, and life was back to normal. All right, guys. That's the last intermission. We're almost there. I went to sleep that night at 8. I was super tired, and I woke up pretty early the next day. I met with Neo. Remember him, the guy who likes to debate for music? We talked for 5 hours. Yeah, I know. Seriously, the entire thing was deep conversations. It was great. I think we figured out how salvation works, so if you want to know, just ask. Anyway, my brain was pretty dead by the end of that. But I managed to get some studying done in the acuplacer test before I went to Ascent Project that night. The whole thing was kind of start of summer part, even though summer started weeks ago. So they brought Spike Ball and had the beanbag tossing game. I teamed up with Caleb, Christian, Christian wasn't there, to play Spike Ball. And we did pretty well the first game. But the games we played the second game the people we played the second game were way above our level. We basically got destroyed the whole time. But we kept playing, it was fun. On Wednesday, I studied some more in the morning, started getting nervous, and was nervous till I finished the test. The acuplacer is kind of weird. It's scoring a scale of 200 to 300. I was thinking I would just convert it into a letter, because, then I could tell. But I'm not actually sure that's how it works. The passing score is 246, so converting that into letters is an E+. So yeah, not quite sure how that equals out. But yeah, I got a 268 on reading, a 276 on writing, a 274 on quantitative reasoning, which is just easy math, and a 292 on algebra and functions. Supposedly college-level math. Shakes his head. Definitely not college. It's the stuff I was doing at HCS, year 12. Then again, that could mean HCS was just good, or good college, or high school. I don't know. If you put that into letters, it's a D+, a C+, a C-, an A-. Yeah. Let's hope it's not the whole letter thing. Anyway, made it through that alive and went to youth group, and that started back up. Being the first summer life group, it was more of a hangout time than anything else. Just time to meet new people and play table tennis and stuff. I talked some with Neo and Sydney, his fiancée, raised his eyebrows, about emotion. Might be a good balance. We'll see. I woke up yesterday morning, went on a short lame run, worked on this email from about 9:30 to 2. Went to a wedding for the next 6 or so hours, which was mildly interesting at best. I don't see the appeal of those things. I did get to have a semi-good conversation with my distant cousins, which I haven't seen in 2 years. I talked to her about epistemology. Anyway, I got home, went to bed, woke up this morning, went on a harder run, 5K in 24 minutes and 30 seconds, so meh. Did a short quiet time and finished this extremely long email. Raises his hands in exhausted victory. There, I did it! Almost 7 hours spent and about 9,000 words written. Okay, I don't think I'm ever doing this again. At least, not this long, because even I think this is too long. That's coming from me. Still, we'll put it to a vote. If you absolutely hated this, let me know. Give me your thoughts, better or worse. And, is it just as good as an average life email? I mean, granted, I can't make like this a new standard, but I want to know, if I have time, is giving you this amount of detail a worthy cause? Thanks for sticking through the end, and I'll talk to you guys in a few weeks.